In this lesson, we're going to continue to work with the basics of Photoshop. And we saw in the previous lesson how we can define the guides and save margins for our document, or we can also insert multiple images and organize them inside our layout by using the alignment tools and the spacing tools. So we're going to just create a new document for this lesson, and I'm going to call this, of course, lesson 6. And since we went through a preset in printing here, we use the A4 and then we switch into the movie world, film and video, and screen cast world. I'm gonna use the web just to change. I'm gonna go for this one here, which is the web most common, and apparently is this size right here. So let's just create it and let's get started. Now you may see some difference between your Photoshop because I changed also the background color. This is something really easy to do. So to do this, you just right click on this space, on the empty space, and you can change. You can set it to default, or you have black, dark gray, medium gray, light gray, and then custom. You can customize by selecting a custom color. Here you customize the background whatever you want. You can select whatever color you want. And you see we already have an artboard, and we already have an artboard thanks to this preset that we're using for the web. Now, if I go to the navigator, I can also move back, and you can see I don't have any other artboard. Now we're going to create more artboards. So we're going to use the navigator. It's going to be really handy because we can track our position inside our big workspace. The workspace will get really, really big when you're using multiple artboards. Now, another thing I want to do first before we continue is just go back to the grid settings just to finish also what we started in the previous video. So I'm going to go to preferences and go here in the guides, grids, and slice. So this is where we can define the color and the line type for the guides. And this is for the artboard also, so we can change here like the artboard guide and also the inactive artboard. If we want, we can show the inactive artboard guides. And again, we have smart guides, and then we have the grid. Now let's like customize a little bit this grid. So I'm gonna go for like medium blue. And here I can select, again, if I want a line type, continuous line type, or dashed or dots. So I'm going to go for like dashed. And then you can define how many grid lines you want to see, or actually what will be the spacing between the grid lines. So let's say that I want to set this to 100 pixels. And then here you can decide whether you want to subdivide more this value, like if you set 4, you're going to have a grid line each 25 pixels. If you set this to 1, you're going to have 1 grid line each 100 pixels. So I'm going to leave it like this and say OK. Now the grid is not visible right now, and to activate the grid, we need to go again back to the properties. Now the only thing is that we need to click outside in an empty space, or we need to exit any command to go here and change visualization for the grid. So these are the rulers. So I'm going to turn off the rulers. I'm going to turn on the grid. And this is the grid right now. And we saw that we can also work with the transparency. And if you click here, you can define. So you can customize also the transparency. You can make the transparency bigger or smaller. Now, by the way, if you want to change the artboard background, instead of changing just the background here of the document, you can click on top of the artboard like this, or on the edge. So it's going to select the artboard. So this is right here, the panel of the artboard, where we can change the properties of the artboard. So we can make this a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. So let's make it like 1000 or 1200 pixels, and then let's make this like 700 height. And here we have also the position of the artboard, which is right now at the x0, epsilon 0 of our world, which is going to be fine. And also, let's go directly to the background there. I'm going to show you here also the presets and the custom. So right now we are working with a customized artboard. Now, if I go here, I can set the transparent background for my artboard. So everything is nice and blue right now, which is really cool. And again, if I want to customize the grid, you cannot see the document properties right now because we are in the artboard. So don't confuse the artboard with the image or with the document or with the Canva. Those are all different things. So if I press here, if I click outside the artboard, I'm going to go back to the document and I can activate, deactivate the grid. I can go here and change the settings for the transparency. So if I want to make it large, small, none, and so on. So I guess I'm going to go for the medium right now. And I don't want to change colors, but you can also customize the grid colors however you want. So they could be like gray and darker blue, lighter blue. So it's really your choice. Okay. Now the grid will be really important together with the guides when we want to project something to be, more precise and more neat and organized and clean and regular design. So for example, one thing I could do here, since this should be a website, one thing I could do is like draw a banner or like the placement for what it could be a banner of a web page. So to do this, I can use a really simple tool here in the toolbar, which is the shape tool, or in this case, the rectangle tool. So if I click here, I can just draw a rectangle here on the top. So I'm just going to click and drag. And you can see we are snapping to the grid. So it's really easier to create modular elements inside this grid. So defining a correct spacing for the grid will be paramount if you want to do like a great job in defining a precise layout and in a really easy way. Now, I'm going to talk about shapes and vector graphics later because this is essentially vector graphics. But you can also use the grid with the placed images. So we learned how to place images many ways in the previous lessons. So I'm just going to go for place linked, and I'm going to select here another image like this. So I'm going to place, and I want to scale these up. And also when I scale, I can either maintain proportions or not, but when I scale, I'm also going to be able to snap to the grid. So let's make this like big enough, like this, so you can see. Well, if you hold the Shift key or you press on this constraint, it's gonna let you be more free in resizing, and you can also see now the smart guides. So I just want to scale this right away, and I just want to place this as a background for my web page. So what I'm going to do is click and drag this underneath the rectangle. And so right now I don't see the transparent layer anymore because I overridden everything with these images. I want to push this image up like it's going to be a nice background. And you see, we kind of define what a standard web page layout would be. I'm not going to go into details right now, just to show you how we are working now, not with the Canva, but we're working inside the Canva and then inside the Artboard. So down here, you see, in terms of layering, in terms of layers, we have and everything we created inside is Artboard. So if I turn off the Artboard, everything is going to be gone and nothing will be visible. If I click on this arrow, I will expand whatever I created in this artboard right here. So these are also called nested elements. So there are elements inside another layer. There are layers inside another layer. So they're called like nested, or this process is called nesting. Now, how do I create more artboards? Now, first of all, where's the artboard tool? So I need to go up here to the move tool. And if you hold the left mouse, this one is going to appear and is going to be there, the Artboard tool. So now we are in the Artboard tool. When you are in the Artboard tool, you can create more artboards. So for example, if I want to create more pages for my website, I can like click here and create a new one like this, which is going to have like the same characteristics of the first artboard in terms of dimensioning and other settings like the transparent background, the grid. So everything is repeated except for the content. Now, if you want to delete an artboard, when you select it, just press cancel or delete key in your keyboard. So another thing I could do, instead of just copying the settings for the guides and the grid and the transparency and everything, I can hold the Alt key before pressing and click, and that's going to duplicate the with the same exact settings. But let me see here what's happening. Okay, I just created more and it just moved the view on the right. So to see everything now from a distance, I can go in the navigator and just zoom out so I can see all the artboards that I created. Because perhaps, you know, a website doesn't have only one page, but have like the home page and then like all the other sections. Now, if I go down here, I can also double click and call this like home page. And you can see also change the name there. And let's call this, I don't know, theme and whatever. So for each page, we can define a different artboard with a different name. So you also see down here that we have now a lot of layers and we can expand them, and we see that they have the same content, but we can change, like for example for this one here, we can change the content if we want. So maybe I want like to push this image up in the other pages or whatever. So you can also create like different options for the same project so that the client or your friend can decide which one he likes the most, like which setting for the image and the background and so on. So you can definitely use this to prototype like a website or an app, like for example with Figma or Adobe XD and so on. Now, let's go back again to the Artboard tool. So if you, with the Artboard tool selected, you go and select an artboard, well, you can create more. You can go in every direction. I can also go down here. There you go. So perhaps I can also create some other options here for the website. So let's say I want to create like a smartphone version or a tablet version. I can make this like, I can click and drag on the grid points there. I can use the grid again to define, you know, other types of layouts like in vertical or again for a tablet like this. So I can make this like smaller, and I can see like a horizontal version for a smartphone and then vertical version and so on. Now I'm just going to move to the next one. And again, if it switches to the move tool, just switch back to Artboard and select. And also, if you want, you can choose, if you go here and then you go in the set Artboard to preset, you can use these presets like iPhone X or iPad Pro, Apple Watch, and you know, other web formats, medium, most common, MacBook Pro. So you have all these different types, icon for applications, for apps, and so on. So you can study like different graphics for one single project, kind of you know, applied graphics, coordinate image, coordinate graphics for one project. So this is where it's really handy about Artboards. So this could be like the logo here. So you know, each single piece can be defined and studied separately, but still staying in the same document, which I'm gonna call, by the way, lesson 6. There you go, and save it. So when you save a Photoshop file, all these artboard will be saved, will be stored inside. Otherwise, you can export these as images, single images or a group of images, or you can export also as a PDF, which I'm going to show you shortly. Now, before going into that, I want to also show you that you can also click and drag elements. So if I click and drag this and bring it into another position, I can place it outside that artboard or out in another artboard, so you can manage all this content that it's inside these artboards. I'm just gonna go back here and go back to the artboard tool. So that's pretty much what you can do in this properties panel. Now I want to create a new one, so you can click and drag and expand. You can use the grid, you can use the pixels. If you want, you can also use precise dimensioning right here with the width and the height, and this will be the position in the absolute space on the x and the epsilon axis, as we already explained before. I don't want to use the rulers right here, but you still can use the rulers and the guides. And I'm gonna turn off the navigator, but again, I think it's really helpful here, because if I want to zoom in and work only on this part of the project, I know where I'm at here. I can move around, I can frame, and I can know I can understand where I'm at in my big Canva here. So really, really helpful in this case. Just go back. And this is empty right now because I don't have any content in there for these other artboards, which are just transparent. Now, if I again select the artboard tool and I go up here, you see that, let me just scroll. You see that we have in the artboard, we have here some presets that we can define for the current tool. We have the possibility again to change for a specific preset, and we can also change again the width, the height. If we want, we can change the background white, transparent, black, or whatever. And then we can also change vertically, horizontally the orientation. So if you have a smartphone, you can see it on both the directions. And we can also add a new artboard just by clicking here, and just click and drag, or just click in this case, just click, and it's going to create a perfect copy of the previous one. But you can also, like, let me just delete, you can also create a new one just directly in here. When you select the tool, you can just click and drag and create a new artboard like that. So you can make really any, you can make your artboards any dimension you want. And just, if you select the edge, you can click and drag it, like, and place it in another position. And when you see that when you move it or you scale it, you can still use the smart guides in the pink, just like if these were images. There you go. And again, let's see. One last thing. Well, you can also align the elements just like if they're image. So I can select more artboards with the shift key or control key, and I can use alignments if I want, or spacing, just as we did again previously with the images. So it's just the same exact thing, but working with artboards. And finally, we have some extra properties here, like auto nest layers. So this is what I was talking about, nesting. If you want to nest, if you want to auto resize the Canva and wherever. So these are like more advanced options that you want. You can also here see the nesting. So you can also prevent the auto nesting into and out of an artboard. So this could be like another option that you can activate, or so turn off, turn on when you're working with artboards, so you can like lock them, unlock them, and prevent this auto nesting. So last thing I'm gonna do is go to file, and now let's export. So you can quick export images, you can export as specific images, but if you go down, you have specific options for artboards. So you can export artboards to files. So let's say that I want like a single image for each one of these artboard. Now you can save in PSD or Photoshop format, or you can save in PNG or JPEG. So let's go like for JPEG. You can decide if you want to include the background or not in the export. You can decide if you want only the Artboard content or if you want to include overlapping areas. And here in the options, you have like also the possibility to choose the quality. Now, if you want, you can also include the Artboard name in the image. So you can change the dimension of the text and the font and the color of the text and the Canva extension color and so on. So let's just run this because this is going to be like an automatic operation. Photoshop is going to go through all the artboards, each single artboard, and it's going to create a new image from that. So just leave it and it's going to go through all the different artboards and create the various artboard. Now, since this is a JPEG, it's not going to have transparent background like PNG, so everything should be white for the extra space that we didn't consider. But again, this is just an example to show you. Now, if you want, another option is instead of exporting one image for each single artboard, you can also decide to export. There you go. Now it's finished and it's in this folder right here. I didn't create a specific folder, which would be actually better, but let me just show you here the export, and I can also export the artboards to PDF. So I can use a multi-page document, so one single document for all the pages, or I can go which one document per artboard. So you can decide all of this. You can decide if you want to include ICC profile and which will be the encoding, and that's it. So I'm gonna create a new folder here. I'm gonna call this like PDF exports, and then just double click here and save the file here. By the way, you can also choose a prefix, especially if you are exporting many files. To have a prefix is better, so you can define it even better. And just gonna run this as well. Now, while this works, I'm just gonna go into folder and see what happened. So these are the artboards they just created. So you can see it's really nice. We have the name on top, so we can use this again for presentation to the client. And we can see also the others, which are basically empty. There's nothing in there. And let's see also the PDF. So I'm gonna go here, PDF export, and this is a preview we can see in Windows. So they all have like different size, of course, but if you work better with this, it's going to be of course better, especially if all the pages have the same size. In case of the PDF, that will be like probably the best practice. And this will be all for this lesson. If you enjoyed, please subscribe to the channel, and if you want to thank us, please join the channel as a supporter, and check also our others video courses and video guides that you find in the channel. So that's it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next lesson.